I actually started martial arts when I was in elementary school. I did Taekwondo for almost 20 years. Ended up fighting in the Junior Olympics. And I really loved it at the time. And I loved training because like my mom always introduced me to like Kung Fu movies. Taekwondo is kind of very like, I can do all this stuff and like Power Rangers do all those kicks and stuff. So I'm like, Taekwondo is the thing I gotta do. And then I went to the Marine Corps and I was actually gonna try out for the Armed Forces team. Ended up getting deployed instead. The Marine Corps sends you where they need to send you. Coming back out, I went to Oregon State. I was looking around and I didn't have a car in college. I lived next to Oregon State's gym, Dixon Rec Center, and they had a judo program. So I jumped into judo and kind of instantly fell in love with it. One of my best friends is from, I met him that day. He actually officiated my wedding. It was so new. At a certain point in my life where it felt okay to be a beginner again, coming to judo, it just felt a little bit less subjective in terms of like if you're competing. If you get hit in Taekwondo, it's like, at the time we didn't have electronic scoring, you had judges. So it's like the judges get it right. If you get thrown for your opponent in judo, it's like, that's very obvious. You got, you lost, right? Or you won, either way. So a lot of it was kind of checking my ego at the door. I'm a black belt in this style. It doesn't mean you're a black belt in every style, right? Someone checked my ego that first day. I always loved like watching training montages and stuff growing up, like having the Rocky montage or any of like Jackie Chan's like training montages in any of his movies.
Taekwondo gold medalist versus the judo gold medalist, who would win?
For similar weight classes, I would actually say judo. I think the Taekwondo person could get a good shot in, but if at any point the distance gets closed and every Taekwondo person is like, oh, I can kick that person before they get to me, every Taekwondo person is gonna say that. I said that. And then I took on a wrestler for the first time and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not a thing. So in my opinion, it'd probably be judo. But I think the Taekwondo, they can pull it off. Maybe 1 out of 5 times they'll knock them out. But yeah. I work for OHSU, the endocrinology department, and I do diabetes prevention. I teach a class that I have multiple cohorts for, where it's a year-long program where people who are pre-diabetic. And that's people who have like a history of like gestational diabetes, if they have like an A1C between like 5.7 to 6.4. A1C is just like the snapshot of like blood sugar levels for 3 months. You're in this transitional period where it's easy for you to kind of dip into type 2 diabetes. And the thing about diabetes is it's a degenerative disease. So once you kind of slip into diabetes, you're always considered diabetic, even if you bring it back down. We want to prevent that. We don't want you to get there. Diabetes is an expensive disease. I work with these people and we go through a curriculum with different concepts like, how do I be accountable for what I'm eating? Not necessarily like, I need to like cut out carbs, I need to cut out fats, I can't have these things. I'm just like, how am I gonna be accountable for it? Because obviously it's not what I'm eating, it's just like, how much am I eating it? When am I eating it? And then making like kind of better decisions. How do I get more exercise into my day? How do I say no to things that are stressing me out, so I don't make bad decisions about food and exercise? After I had graduated chiropractic school, I had this idea of doing health coaching. So I already had a degree in exercise science, had a doctorate in chiropractic, and eventually I found this position at OHSU working for the Diabetes Education Center. My wife was diabetic, so like I kind of had a connection to it, and it just felt right to kind of use the knowledge I had and then to gain the training I got there to kind of pursue this prevention of diabetes. Granted, she had type 1, so whole different beast, but type 2 can reach that stage and it's preventable. So it just made sense for me to go into that industry. Sometimes you get young working professionals, sometimes you get older retired people, sometimes you get married couples, and that's actually my favorite thing because they just give each other so much trouble in the class. They're like, I was eating this thing and I was really good, and the wife will turn around and it's like, no, you weren't. Don't lie. You're not getting extra credit, My dad's side is here. They come from Batangas. They came here because my grandfather was a civil engineer, and then my mom is from a village called Ilog Occidental. She actually met my dad because she was a dancer traveling through Europe, and my dad was stationed in Germany, and that's where they ended up meeting. My dad was in the Air Force. From there, they got married in my mom's hometown in Ilog, and then eventually made their way back to the States. My grandparents worked for Tektronix and Intel at the same time. And it was this very, very Filipino, like hustle culture type of thing. I was born in Portland. I was actually born in St. Vincent's. Went to high school at Westview. The Asian community in Beaverton is pretty big. Korean, a lot of Vietnamese, Chinese, and a few Filipinos were in the mix. It was very much all the Asians hung out together. So all the Asians hung out with all the Asians was how I remembered it. One of my best friends was actually, his nationality was Chinese, but his mom was raised in Manila. So she spoke Tagalog, and like for the longest time, I just thought she was Filipino. And she's like, oh, no, I'm actually Chinese. But I was just raised in the Philippines. And we traveled to the Philippines a few times. In middle school, I did live there for about 6 months. So I lived in Ilocos with my mom and my sister and her family, and we went to school there. So a lot of the culture I got was from there. Growing up as American, it was interesting kind of being engulfed in that culture, going to church every other day because it was a private Catholic school, eating the food, like my mom going to like the farmer's market or whatever, the outdoor, the wet markets and stuff. I remember she would bring home like the pito. I loved like putting like jam on that. It was very weird because I thought I was going to be able to learn Tagalog, but it was a lot of everybody else's opportunity to speak English to us. I can kind of understand it. I know when I'm getting yelled at. I know when I'm supposed to eat. So yeah, it was a good experience and a very core memory for me. I think one of the biggest things between Filipino culture and other Asian cultures, the main culture of Filipinos is like everybody's being super, super welcoming. Like I didn't realize, like we did have people like come over to our house and like watch TV, and I'm like, who is this kid? And they're like, oh yeah, he's just he's just from the neighborhood. I'm like, okay. As a Filipino kid, I remember having these giant parties. I'm like, I don't know half the people. Are we related to these people? My dad always cooked lechon. I remember sticking the stick into the pig. Portland Judo, I think I joined in 2012. A lot of my friends from when they were moving back to Portland, they all told me about this place called Portland Judo. The people they attracted were the people who also embraced the suck like I did. You know, it's just like our warm-up's 45 minutes. That's not a warm-up, that's actually a workout. We all trained together, we competed together. Eventually, I started teaching for a good couple years prior to Portland Judo closing. During COVID, I had to take a step back from doing judo because my wife was on dialysis. She had end-stage renal failure due to type 1 diabetes complications, so took a step back, worked full remote. And then in 2021, my wife passed. So in August of 2021, my wife passed. And at the same time, I was like trying to figure out what to do, and the dojo was kind of my safe spot. So I started coming back. I wasn't training, but I would just come back and hang out, like watch the classes, stick around and hang out with the instructors. And that's when I found out that Portland Judo was closing. And Portland Judo as a community was gigantic. People were like, what are we gonna do? Where do we go? A few of the black belts got together and were like, hey, is there anything we can do? At this point, I was still grieving pretty hard too. And why I kind of really decided to really do it is a lot of that community showed up when Paula passed. When I remember the moment I called my friend, and he got like everybody to show up. Like people were bringing me food, people were donating money, like people were taking care of like my in-laws when they were in town. So the big decision was, you know, how do I pay that community back? And so I started Bridgetown Judo with that, you know, so. I didn't know much about the business side though. And that's been a whole learning experience this entire time, juggling the needs of the families and the kids. I'm grateful for some of the parents that stuck around. They're like, hey, Portland Public Schools are switching their schedules and all that kind of stuff. The transition from Portland Judo to Bridgetown Judo was kind of weirdly born out of tragedy. The thing that we talk about the most, and when I talk about it, is it's not about replacing what we had, it's about starting something new. So the first thing they tell you when you're a widower is to not make any big decisions within the first 6 months. I made the decision to open school in 3 months, which was not the best idea. Like I was like possibly not in the best frame of mind. We didn't actually open until like January of 2022. So I gave myself 6 months. Judo has two main principles: maximum efficiency, minimum effort. and then mutual benefit and welfare. It teaches people to apply technique in the most efficient way possible. The mutual benefit and welfare is a big part of judo, because we can't do this without other people. There's a Filipino word, kapwe, your culture is my culture type of thing, and that very accepting vibe. I believe those two ideologies kind of go hand in hand. So we want people to feel accepted and taken care of, because we need them to train, but we also want them to feel comfortable with the people that are around them, right? We accept the people who are here. I mean, that's why we still have all the barbecues, and with us and our senseis and our community, we just attract the people that kind of continue with those values. All the dojos that I've been to since we've opened have been wildly accepting of everybody. Even this weekend, we're sending a group of girls up to Seattle Dojo because they're having a girls training event. And so it's just like cool to have like not just this community in Portland, but like up in Washington, even up into Vancouver. The two main things I really want people to kind of walk away when they're here is one, embrace the grind. If you have this goal of judo to compete, to get better at it, to learn it, embrace the grind, because it's not an easy sport. If you don't embrace it, it kind of takes its toll. But the other thing is, don't be a jerk. We care about people here, and I feel like that's a big thing. Like, we shouldn't have to tell people that, but it's don't be mean, be kind. It's not hard. Like, you're already here beating each other up. It's not hard to be kind after that. One of my favorite quotes from Doctor Who was, "You don't always have to be nice, but always be kind." So, and I think that's something that we as judoka could really, really do. Jump by, come on the mat. We have extra Ds. I don't know if you can get that.
Yeah, I'll throw that.